What's up, troopers? Here for another TFT Mini. Yeah, the appropriate Mike, the double gun man himself. He actually only has one gun, but he shoots it twice. Uh, Han Solo, the unorthodox general, has been in the game for a long time. He looks very different from his original iteration,
Yeah.
especially because
We
of a certain keyword. What were you gonna say?
we got to get in his unit guide before two more iterations of him become legal in Legion.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because that is something that's literally about to happen with the mercenary version and the Tauntaun version that are coming up in the future. But yeah, Mike, where do you want to start with Han Solo?
Han Solo. I mean, we should start with his unit card, right? And progress into his sweet batch of command cards.
Yeah, they're pretty sweet. So his unit card, there's a couple of things that I want to highlight as sort of like the things that go together for Han Solo. So it's going to be three things. It is gunslinger, steady, and a Pierce 2 gun that happens to have sharpshooter 1 on top of it and surging to crit on top of that.
That's like three or four
Yeah, okay,
things.
that's a lot of things. But so Han used to not have steady, if y'all can believe it out there, y'all newer Rebel players, and he was mostly considered to be sort of subpar during the early period of his existence. He definitely could kill a lot of stormtroopers really fast, but aside from that, if you let him sit out there, then he would also die really fast. But this is what he does: is that he will do double moves or maybe occasionally an A move and pick the two targets that are most likely to take those two dice to the face. So open shots are the best, which means that assuming they don't have immune pierce or impervious, is that they are just basically taking two wounds.
Yeah, they're like, we're taking four this turn, boys.
Yeah, exactly. Mention stormtroopers, but also clone troopers that don't have a dodge token lying around, and anything else that's in the red save zone. With Pierce 2, even Mandalorians are sweating pretty hard that they're gonna take two wounds against this guy, and so he what he is best at is just like piling up wounds on, especially like core troopers or special forces that are in the wrong place at the wrong time. He does have a few things that help him keep alive a little bit longer than his health profile would suggest. He has sort of the standard rebel health profile of 6 health with a surging white save. And then he does only have Courage 2, which can be relevant at least sometimes. But he has a combination of a couple things. He has low profile, which is yet another keyword that is way better than it was in its original iteration. Well, because if you already had heavy cover, then low profile didn't do anything for you. And on top of that, he has Uncanny Luck 3, which means that he gets to reroll up to 3 of his blank results to try to get some blocks out of that. I think that from a math perspective, Uncanny Luck 3 will usually basically mean that you get an extra block out of it than you normally would have. It's maybe a little bit more than that. You probably know the exact math a little bit better, Mike.
Yeah, so if you are rolling less than 3 defense dice, Uncanny Luck 3 makes his saves red surging saves effectively, math wise.
Right.
If you're rolling more than that, it gets a lot worse. But yeah, I mean, like when you're just picking up 3 extra dice and rolling them again, it is generally +1 save, right?
Yeah.
But kind of like if you're taking 3 or less hits total, he's actually like very sturdy.
Which means that if you're trying to shoot at him, that like throwing non-piercing small pool ranged attacks against him, where one is going away from low profile anyway, is basically a not particularly useful thing to be doing with your time. So he can live longer again than his health profile might suggest. It's also, but on top of all of that, I did use the term non-piercing there, Mike.
Yes. Once you get lightsabers involved, this guy just evaporates.
Han Han is maybe the most impressively vulnerable unit to melee in like for characters like that I can think of in the game. Because when he's engaged, it means that he's not using his sweet gun. It means that he's using the probably like the least impressive melee profile for any like famous Star Wars character that exists in Star Wars Legion, which is 3 white dice.
At least right now, Tarkin throws one white not surgeon. So
That's true. But like Tarkin was dead before the end of Episode 4, right? So like in the grand scheme of things, Han Solo has been in 5 Star Wars movies.
For sure.
So three white dice is like it's not great. And it does lend itself to this sort of traditional idea in Star Wars Legion now that if you want to take care of Han Solo, you just like send a Jedi his way, and things will evaporate pretty quickly.
That's not how the Force works.
Yeah, this is how the Force works. So yeah, like at baseline, what we've basically said is that he's somebody who melts to melee, but is pretty good against ranged and like dishes out a ton of range damage himself, as long as he's able to do it. But if that's quote all you were getting for 100 points, would that be worth it to you, Mike?
No, I think that generally what's going to happen with Han from like a gameplay perspective is like once you get in once, maybe twice with steady, they're going to put him in melee. Like even if they're not going to kill him, they're going to put him in melee, right? Because you got to get to range 2 to take the steady shots.
Right.
So he's got to have something else that makes him good, Evan. I don't know what that could possibly be.
He has 3 other things. He has one of the most technically useful command card suites in the game, which is to say that all of them, maybe with the slight exception of Sorry About the Mess, which can change the game state in its own right for being a 0 pip, but the other 2 can be game breaking if you use them in the right situation. So I'm actually going to start with Sorry About the Mess since it is the simplest one. It is a 0 pip. Han gets an aim and a dodge, and you treat it as a 1 pip when you're building your hand. It only orders him. That's it. If Rebels had, we were talking about this earlier today, if Rebels had a little bit more access to generating orders outside of command cards, then I think that this would be even more useful. But such as it is, being able to go first almost all the time, it does beat Cunning. It does not beat Command Control Array. Funny enough, it creates ties with
now
that.
Now that Empire can do this with
exactly,
any command card that they ever had.
They want. It seems like it's pretty good. And then the tokens are helpful, but the tokens are not the reason this card exists. It exists to be a 0 pip card, and sometimes you are going to be in situations in a Han Solo list where you're playing this, but the unit that you actually want to activate is in your bag, and that you're going to be improvised orders digging a little bit to try to get there. But a little bit of gambling is thematic for Han Solo, so it does work for that. It's a very good command card, and even despite that fact, it's also like his least impressive command card out of the 3, because the other 2 can be kind of nuts. Regulus Diversion,
go ahead.
is 2 pip. It's Han Solo and 1 unit. That and 1 unit is a big key to why this can work really well. This round, each time an enemy unit makes an attack, it must attack a trooper unit that has a face-up order token if able. Allied trooper units that have face-up order tokens do not benefit from backup this round. That's something that was added into New Legion to make this a little bit less silly, but it still ends up being pretty silly. Mike, why is this good?
Yeah, I mean, so I feel like the reason is obvious, Evan. You want your guys to die, right? So you can put this on like a pretty hardy unit, throw them out in front of your army the turn before you play this.
You do need to plan.
Give them. You do have to have a plan. You give them a face-up order, and then your opponent can only shoot them. This is I definitely think it's like a little bit less abusable now than it used to be. I used to throw Jin out in front of my entire army, give her Guardian and Danger Sense 4, and do
Yeah.
some wild stuff with it. Um, but you know, you can basically soak a lot of attacks on a specific unit, keep the rest of your stuff alive, and then when that unit is degraded, you go with that unit and hide them. Right? Hopefully, they might be dead too, but um, this is really about making your opponent shoot something they don't want to shoot. Instead of your more vulnerable stuff. So, here's a Rebel Trooper unit, have it. You can't shoot my Luke Skywalker, right? Um, or my Bad Batch or whatever.
Yeah. And there's a couple aspects to this is that you literally can't avoid Han being one of the shootable units. So if you are using this, you usually are playing this so that the and one unit is getting shot, not so that Han is getting shot. So
don't give it to Han, or rather, don't
let Han be the target that is being forced here.
Put him behind a building before you.
Yeah, exactly. So ironically, Han should be well hidden when you do this, but you want the other unit to be at least somewhat shootable. I think I developed the full appreciation of this card when I saw the tactic that Antoine Grenet was using with his Ewok list. This was back in Old Legion, but it's a tactic that still exists today, where you have a skirmisher unit or slinger unit that is that has low profile built in. And then you poke out a non-leader mini to be visible, to make it so that your opponent has to shoot at a low-profile unit that has one eligible wound. That is actually even slightly easier to do with the advent of area terrain rules that changed a little bit earlier this year as we record this, because it means that you can have an Ewok unit that is all behind a piece of line of sight blocking area terrain except for one mini that is poking out there. And that one mini is visible to anything beyond that area terrain, but everybody else in the unit will not be, which means that shots on that have one possible wound, and that means that unless your opponent has Sharpshooter 2 or a Blast or is getting crits, that the automatic save, like the automatic cover roll that you get from low profile, will actually keep that unit fully protected. It's gonna get a lot of suppression, but if that's the cost that you're paying for keeping the rest of your army safe from shooting, it can be like really dastardly. And
such a good word.
Even with Ewok units, like any Rebel list can do that, right? Because like any Rebel list unit can run an Ewok or two. It's usually a slinger, but even if the unit that we're talking about is like Rebel veterans or something where they're not going to last quite as long, but again, if you've arrayed them in that way that only one is shootable, then it is going to annoy the crap out of your opponent, and it's going to make them waste a lot of attack dice that would have been killing other guys in your army. So this is a tough command card to get the full utility out of. It takes a little bit of practice and certainly some planning, but it can ruin your opponent's best round of shooting. And that is from the beginning of the round, right? Like you don't need to do any kind of activation, whatever. You just need to keep their unit face up as long as it's humanly possible, and it will have done its job. Anything else in Reckless Diversion?
Nah, nice tactical download, bro.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, my 41 attack dice are all getting dumped into this one Ewok that I can see. It's making me very sad. And then there's his other totally rad command card, Mike, which is Change of Plans. Han Solo and 2 units, so it's nice that you have some like above average order control for a Rebel command card of being able to get 2 additional guys. When that is revealed, you may discard this card to return it to return an opponent's command card to their command hand and return to the select command card step. That opponent cannot select the command card that was returned to their command hand. So basically, like if you do this, then you rewind time. You get rid of change of plans itself, which means that you are going to have to play a different command card, and like your change of plans is spent, aside from one caveat that we'll talk about here in a second. But your opponent will be able to keep like their command card for the future, but they can't use it this round. And so it says Han Solo in 2 units. It functionally will very often be whatever else that you have going on.
Yeah, the amount of times you give out orders with this card is low.
This is another one that takes a little bit of practice, but even more than that, it asks you to have knowledge of your opponent's game plan, because timing is really critical here, right, Mike?
It is, though. I've seen a lot of people just start playing this on turn 1 and bouncing standing orders back to people's hand.
That's good enough, right? If you as the rebel list, it can be good enough. If you as the rebel list wanted to play standing orders anyway, and you wanted to really guarantee that you were going to be able to activate second, then especially if you're against like, this is where the knowledge of sort of game plans comes into mind, is that like you're going to look at it, you're going to want to look at the list and go like, what are they probably going to play at turn 1? Is this a sort of list that is going to need to have order control on multiple units, which means that it might be playing assault or some other commander card, in which case you can play your standing orders early and save change of plans for their big flashy 1-pip turn. It's up to you. There's like a variety of ways that you can use this. We just earlier recorded a video on Wheelback Warlord General Grievous. That is a fairly scripted command card situation, and so like against that list, you would usually want to save this for round 2 in order to bounce back Jedi Arts and prevent that from happening. One thing to be aware of, though, Mike, is that if your opponent also has played the game a time or two, they may sense your change of plans and put out an order that your opponent is sort of like mediocre on, that they feel okay on, and that would potentially still have priority over you. Like a decent 2-pip is something that you might want to play if you think your opponent is going to play change of plans, because then they end up in a situation where they either have to keep this order where they're losing priority and it's not really doing anything, or they can kick it back in order they would be able to. The Han player can choose something else, but it also means that their opponent can then actually play the command that they wanted to play. Yeah. So you should be careful.
It's definitely, there's some 3D chess that can happen here.
Yeah. It's something that used to happen all the time with the old version of Anakin to prevent his progression, and it was like getting really annoying. But that is not a time that we live in anymore. So yeah, change of plans is cool because as we record this, I'm guessing that Thrawn is probably going to have some mechanics that may be kind of similar in terms of messing with your opponent's command cards, but this is like really the only way that you can totally nuke an opponent's command card in the game. Any command card, I should say, that your opponent is using, and they can't really do anything about it. They have to delay it for a turn. That's pretty darn good, Mike.
Yeah. It's particularly good when you're in like a crisis moment in turn like 3 and your opponent really needs something to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
upgrades wise, I think that this is pretty straightforward to me anyway. I see the command slot. I see improvised orders. Do you have any argument against that?
I think that Underworld Connections is a reasonable thing if you're trying to do the Ewok thing and Reckless Diversion thing in a
non-Bright Tree list. Yeah. Because he has it automatically in a Bright Tree list now, which is pretty nice.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that there's that. I do think Trusted Agent, also a very reasonable pick on him, in that it allows you to turn on Sorry About the Mess on other key units.
That's fair.
But outside of those two things, I definitely think Improvised Orders is probably the way to go.
Yep. Training slot. I'm not sure what else you're likely to see aside from Up Close and Personal. Up Close and Personal has an added benefit on any gunslinger unit because you're getting 2 dodges instead of 1. So that's always strong. 8 points is not nothing,
No.
but there's certainly many lists that toss that in there. Is there anything else that you feel like you see?
Yeah, I think seize the initiative is a reasonable thing here.
Yeah, that's fair.
You
That's
know,
fair.
rebel lists often have, you know, even if you're taking Han, you might not be taking all of his command cards. You know,
Yeah.
maybe you're not doing the reckless diversion thing, and even then, there's going to be Han's command kit. I would say is, you know, unlike a lot of command suites where you're like, I have a plan for these. You're often going into the game with Han's cards and being like, I'm gonna play these when I need them, and I only might need one of them each game.
Right.
So you're probably playing the other 3 command cards with more regularity than his. So just making sure you have order control on your unit that really needs to have timing be right to matter seems like a decent thing.
Yep. And then the gear slot, recon intel can give you some cheeky moves where he can threaten units that are poking out too much on round 1. It feels like a lot for 8. And then emergency stims is another thing that is worth considering. Maybe even just the 2 points on E-gear to make sure that his steadiness does not get slowed down by any terrain out there. There's a few choices. I don't think any of them are really like necessary.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, I would leave this slot blank, frankly.
Yeah, usually I'd leave it blank for sure. And then we should at least mention for a couple of reasons, Mike, the existence of Chewbacca. He has teamwork Han Solo, and so that means that they can generate some tokens for each other. It usually ends up being that Han from his zero pip can get a couple of additional tokens on Chewie. But the other thing that we should mention with Chewie is the existence of a card that we have a podcast that was named after this card, that being Notorious Scoundrels. And the thing about Notorious Scoundrels, Mike, is to me, it allows you to bring a Han command card back from your discard pile. Have you ever seen this used for anything except for change of plans?
I actually used to get Reckless Diversion back in my gen list.
That is pretty dastardly.
But I actually think that of all of the command cards that we have talked about, perhaps in the last 3 to 4 months, this command card might be the one that is gonna get the best, get more better, right? As we continue on our journey here, because we're probably gonna get what
3 or 4 more Han commands,
minimum, baseline, you know,
between the Tauntaun and the mercenary version that are coming out.
Right. So it's entirely possible that the Notorious Scoundrels will just be everywhere. You know?
They'll be in your iPods and in every Rebel list out there also.
Right. So tough to say. Definitely I would say a command card that I wish the text was a little bit different on now that Legion is very fast. But you really needed the time to like take a turn off to play this before.
Yeah, because it doesn't actually do anything aside from order them. Aside from grabbing that command card back,
like you get a command card back and you order them, which you know, the game's just a lot faster now, and so obviously getting back his stuff is pretty good, but losing the tempo of a command card that actually affects the board state in a given turn is not ideal at this juncture.
I will say that when you change of plans directly into Notorious Scoundrels, it does save you that tempo issue. But
it does.
That would be really useful in a situation where there was a round 1 command that you really wanted to stop from your opponent, such as a tactical download, and then you would just grab it back, which would mean in that example, you could block tactical download, and then you could also block Jedi Arts the next round, which would be pretty sick.
For sure.
Against a lot of lists, that won't be quite as useful as that, but you know,
pretty good against Yoda.
Pretty good against Yoda too, for sure. So yeah, like doing the change directly into Notorious Scoundrels does like at least help out with that tempo issue, like you said. And it doesn't make you spend a whole turn doing sort of nothing on a command in order to get one Han command back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's Han Solo. There's more to say about him in the context of Bright Tree, but we're gonna have a separate mini for that. He certainly still shows up in quite a variety of Rebel lists, and it's worth repeating that. To summarize, he can be quite good at combat, but he needs the right targets. So plan ahead where he's going to be when you deploy him. Don't deploy him next to the Droidekas and Aqua Droids. Deploy him next to your Kalanis and super attacks and things like that, where he's going to be able to do a lot more damage. And remember that he will get meleeed as soon as you give your opponent a chance to do it. And then just have a plan for his super sweet command cards. If you do all that, you're probably going to be pretty happy with your purchase of Han Solo Unorthodox General. All right, so that's one other TFT Mini in the bag. If you like what we're doing, please do consider checking out our Patreon, and we will see you on the next one.